Stand by for action.
Thanks for joining me. My name's Dave Miller. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy. In the world today, it's no wonder that some people are feeling disillusioned, disenfranchised, and frankly hopeless. Feeling that undercurrent, I decided to take the May the 6th episode of the English Defense League radio program and use excerpts of it in 4 programs dedicated to raising optimism and to commemorate the English Defense League radio program's 4 years of telling the truth about Islam and Islamization, both in the United Kingdom and around the world. For those who don't know, the English Defense League, which has existed for about 7 years, is one of the most dynamic, nonviolent, non-racist civil rights organizations in existence today, and they are well represented by Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio program, where Jan Rennie and I are panelists.
Something that Hope in my heart, something she said, and I'm going to want to make a little comment to what Hope said. She said, there are very few of us that are even concerned about what is going on, and we need to talk about it. We are the minority, and it is lonely. I hate to say it, but hopeless situation. I'd like to respond to that, Hope. There's nothing that's hopeless. And being a patriot, and being someone who loves your country, don't think you're alone, because you're not alone. There is millions of us. There's millions who feel the same way as you. Nothing is hopeless. I'm an optimist, and I do believe that goodness will prevail over this evil. And
I do.
In your hope in your heart, it's a great name. That you've got to believe that is the case. I would say to you, Hope, just keep the faith. There are good people out there that will do the right thing for their country and their nation when called to do so. I believe that, because I believe that the good people will come to the front, will stand up, and will be counted, and will do what needs to be done, Hope. So have faith. I just needed to say that, Dave, because, sometimes I notice that a little bit of desperation with people. I can understand it. Would you agree with that? I'd like to pass it to you, Dave, for your thoughts.
Jeff nails it when he says, Hope and other listeners, that there will be dark days ahead. Part of this is our own fault, because we haven't been paying attention to these political matters and things like that, because we've been living our lives, and it's come down to this. But that doesn't mean that we're going to lose. In the end, we know we win. There will be dark days ahead. There will be rough times, and it will look often as if evil is going to prevail. But when things like that come up, there's always a small core of people that come up with the grit to overcome that evil, and it's going to happen again. Now, it may not happen in our lifetimes, and that's just the reality. But if you keep the faith, and if you associate with people who have the same mindset you do, we will win. It may take some time, but we will win. And I'll turn it over to Jan for her thoughts.
I'm on board with all of you. What we have to remember is we are dealing with Satan. We are dealing with dark forces. And when we're around dark forces, like we are every day, we have been for decades in the UK, certainly. When we're dealing with dark forces, it gets to you, it gets you down, and you do feel hopeless. But then you've got to think and have the faith and know, because we do know that we win in the end. And I do hope I see in my lifetime. I've worked too bloody hard not to. I'll be so pissed off if I wasn't around when it all went off. I really would, wouldn't you, Jeff?
Yeah.
I just want to see us that's been fighting it for decades, if you like. 7 years, you and I, Jeff, with the E.D.L, but prior to that, we were alone, or so we thought. Had no one to speak to, had no one to join, had no one to rally with, if you like, and is why the E.D.L became so important from the get-go with us.
Well, I suppose I've been doing this for about 14 years now, Jan. It's that long. I noticed and I look back, and it was that long. I've been involved with the anti-jihad movement before the E.D.L even. I was in the Pal Talk rooms, as you know, Jan, and Dave Paxton. That's what I used to do. And so this has been a long, hard fight. And we knew that these times would come, Jan.
Yes.
We said it back then, even back then, before the E.D.L came about, we said that there'd be a time where the people in this country, people would stand up. But we've seen that with the E.D.L. The E.D.L stood up because there's so much of the two-tier things going on, the rise of the basically political correctness creating the problems that we've got. But we knew that the time would come when people would say, you know what, this enough isn't enough, we've got to do something. And I'll say to anybody out there, I know sometimes it feels rather desperate, and maybe that's the way that it's going to pan out to be, rather desperate. But it's like the old saying, when your back's against the wall and when there's nowhere out, what you got to do? You got to fight. And that's what it'll come down to.
Jeff,
yeah.
Don't you think that it's escalated in our favour, although it doesn't look like it's in our favour because we're going down and down and down and down with this Islamic business, but it's escalated in the past several years. In fact, it's even more so in the past 2-3 years, that more people are waking up. You may not realise it, but more people are waking up. Actually, the Islamic people of the Islamic faith, the idiots of this world, the demonic people, are pushing and showing their true colours more and more. The cat is out the bag. We now know their agenda, and we've just got to keep waking more people up to this agenda and make them realise that they are not good people. There are no moderates. They're just pretending to be like us because they have no choice at the moment. They do not go against their own people. They do not curse them. They do not decry them for their actions. They are what they are. And it's escalating. And when it escalates and shows its colours more and more, then it's in our favour because more and more people will eventually wake up and see. I know people that never said a word about Muslims ever, but now they're all starting to say, but it's right, you know. What they've been doing.
It's happened, Dan. It's happening all over the world. It is. I mean, look at what Paul Weston said about the former Soviet satellite states. They've woken up to it, and they're just saying flat out, no. Look at Angola in Africa. They say the same thing. No, forget it. Even China, for God's sake, has its own problems with human rights. Even they have said no. And people in all of our countries are beginning to ask themselves the same kind of questions about Islam that some of us asked around the time of 9/11, and some more astute people began asking even before that. So, yes, there is scope for some optimism here, even though it looks bad now.
Dave and Jan, haven't we got a story about the Hungarian Prime Minister, what he's had to say about the situation? We got a story that's related to the things we talked about tonight.
Stay tuned for part 2 of E.D.L for Hope, when we'll hear from Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban on the positive steps his country is taking in the fight against world Islamization. That's it for this time. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye. The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2016 Anno Domini.